Did everybody jump? There we are, me and John are in. Good evening, Andy, Fee, Millie, Margaret, Fionn.
Good evening.
Just wait a couple of minutes, see if anybody else joins up for really scary ghost stories. John's got all the ghost stories tonight. But, there's 5 people watching in, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in the chat. Just wait for a couple of more minutes and we'll start. Make sure you turn
See the regulars here?
Yes. Turn the lights down low. Get some music on in the background, scary music. Rebecca's on here.
I tried it with the lights off myself, right? But I tried to memorize them as best I could, but I've got to read off them, so I've got to have the light on.
Yeah, it's better.
And that's my excuse anyway.
Me. Ooh. Good evening, Millie. Good evening, Margaret. Waiting for Kyle to jump into bed and turn the light and fan off. Oh, he's home early, isn't he? Kyle? Ah, right. Just wait 2 minutes more, then we'll start the frightening stories. And John's done a lot of research, and he found out that these are very factual. All right, Andy. There we are, John. Started it.
Yeah, okay. I can start. Firstly, I'd like to tell you that these stories, as far as I'm concerned, are true. 2 people have sent them in. I'll explain about the other one after I finish this one. This first one is by a very good friend of mine I've known for a long, long time, and I trust him that this is true. If you expected me to say things about, I don't know, girls or boys running up the walls on the ceilings or people standing on the wardrobes, that's for Hollywood, right? This is not this is true. So one thing I'll ask you to do is when you're listening to this is just pretend it's you, because this really happened in real houses. This first ghost story is called Grandpa. The reason we moved down to Margam was to look after my grandmother after my grandfather passed away in June. My gran was recovering from surgery for breast cancer, which was a greater devastating condition than it is today. And today it is still a debilitating disease. It wasn't really an upheaval for us, as I was one of the first kids to miss the 11 plus and go straight into different comprehensive. Anyway, late that August, my sister had a friend over the weekend, and I gave up my bed to go and sleep in the spare single bed in Granny's room. About 2 a.m. on that Saturday morning, I awoke to see a figure kneeling next to Granny's bed, and after a few moments, the figure rose and turned towards me, put his finger to his lips in a motion for me not to tell. Shh. And then he disappeared. That apparition was my grandfather. Was I frightened? No. He was my grandfather. Was I dreaming? I don't think so, because I remember sitting in bed for quite a few minutes before wiping my forehead, which was covered in a clammy sweat. Afterwards, I felt comfortable enough to go back to sleep. And when I woke, I went downstairs where my mother was in the kitchen. We had the usual hug, and after a short while, she realized there was something wrong with me. I tried to fob her off, saying I was okay and there was nothing wrong, but she persisted. Mothers just know, don't they? Eventually, I told her everything that had happened in the early hours of that morning. Her response was, "Oh, don't be silly. Come here and have a cutch." But I insisted and continued to explain what I'd seen. Then there was a crashing noise that came from the living room. We went to investigate and found that my grandfather's shaving kit had somehow fallen from the book cupboard into the floor. The shaving kit was still intact and a small bowl, it was in its small bowl, and even more strange was that the cupboard door was still closed. My mother picked up the enamel pot and shaving gear and returned it to the cupboard. We never spoke of this ever again, but I know that really was my grandpa. Strange things really do happen out there. Well, that's the first one, and this man is of retirement age, and he still remembers that as if it happened yesterday when he was 11 years of age.
Good God.
So, what I'm telling you is he would have forgotten some parts of it, that wasn't made up. He's a very good friend of mine, and I know it's true. So what did you think of that first one now, Gary?
I think it's brilliant, but it's sort of nice because people do come back, I think, and they look over you when you're sleeping or whatever, and you think it's something down the bottom of the bed, and you tend to pull something over your, what I do anyway. If I see somebody in darkness, pull the blanket over your head, even at my age.
Well, see, believe it or not, some ghost stories, you see, they can be happy, because to me that was quite a happy story, because Grandpa was there looking after his wife even after his passing. So to me that was one a real scary story, but that was a true story, and he was quite happy as well.
Yeah.
You see, I didn't mention his name on purpose because he asked me not to. I was in a house the other day. Again, I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but there was a real happy feel about the house, and strange things that happened there, but in a real nice way.
Yeah.
In a real nice way, So they're not all bad.
No.
But the next one is.
All right, brilliant. We'll get ready.
Yeah, you can get ready, and I'll give you a little bit of background to this, because this was very strange. On my Facebook, I did in the week, I asked people for their ghost stories, and I really enjoy coming on your show and doing a few bits and bobs, and I'll do anything. I'd sing a song or tell jokes or do anything, right? But I enjoy this, and so another good friend of mine, I haven't known him for such a long time as the first guy, but I've known of him, but I would say in the last 5-6 years, he's become a good friend. Again, I don't really want to say his name, so for tonight we call him Peter, okay?
Okay.
Now, Peter was we are, like I say, we're very good friends now. He's again amazingly trustworthy. Well, if I had somebody to mind my last £10, he'd be one of the guys I'd give it to. He's so. If he was to tell me something, I really would believe it. So he sent me a story, and I read it, and I thought, oh gosh, that's a bit scary then. So I thought, right, I'll read that one. But yesterday, I had a message, and they really don't, I won't make a name up for them at all, but they don't want me to know, don't want any recognition at all for this, right? But then when I started to read the story, it was nearly, not word for word, don't get me wrong, but it was sort of the same story as Peter's, right?
Yeah.
It was more detail, and so I've chosen their story, but the person that, well, right then, Peter's is in this, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
but this other guy wrote it as well, sent it to me, but it's in the same street,
Good
right?
God.
It's the same story, and the only difference is they never met, and it's 16 years late in between the two stories.
Good God.
So if that doesn't make you think, nothing will.
Hmm.
Right, I'll get on and read this now. I've called this story The Whispering Ghost. The family concerned have asked me not to reveal their identity, but the locality is in West End in Taibash. It started in the summer of 1996. The gentleman concerned was doing a bit in the garden, and he heard somebody whispering his name. Thinking it was his wife, he went inside and asked his wife what she wanted. She looked at him in disbelief. "Stop messing around," she said. "You called me. I was hoovering in the front room and I heard you calling me." "It wasn't me," he said. "I heard a woman's voice calling me." Well, it was more like a whisper than anything else. And his wife said she heard exactly the same thing, except it was a man's voice. They worked out they must have been exactly the same time. Well, they both had to shrug it off, really, so, there, and they must have been the neighbours or even their imagination. But the next day, the man was in the bath, and he heard what he thought was his wife calling him again. Only this time he was a bit louder, and after a few seconds, he realised it was the same voice as yesterday. He was now convinced his wife was playing tricks on him. Out of the bath he gets, he dries off and goes to find his wife. Well, she was nowhere to be found at all, anywhere. He's in the front room looking over, and he sees his wife leaving his neighbour's house across the street. He doesn't say anything about the whispering, but asks her how long she's been over there. Well, she said as soon as he went into the bath, I phoned the friend, and then I went over for a chat. Now, this was the first time he felt a little bit of unease about the whispering. And little did he know this was the start of. Well, the whispering continued, just his name, over and over and over again. So he did get a little worried about it. So he actually went to see the doctor, he said, He got checked over. His ears were perfect. He had a full MOT with the doctor. That was perfect. And in the end, he even asked the doctor about schizophrenia because he was hearing things. He was really concerned. Look, the doctor assured him that all was well. And he must be thinking about it all the time. And so he hears it. The doctor said that can happen sometimes. When you think of something enough, it sort of happens. Well, he thought that did make sense. So he went away quite happy. A few days later, he went up to see his mates up in his local for a bit of R&R. After a couple of pints, he decided to tell his friends of his experience. After a bit of banter and everything that he did expect, one of his friends said it happened to him once. Guess who? Somebody called him and he told his mother. And his mother told him to close his eyes and ask out loud, what do they want? And he said, after I did this, I never heard the voice again. He said, you should try it. Now, He said he is one to take advice regularly, but he wishes he never took that advice to this day. The next time he remembers hearing the whispering calling his name, he was sitting down reading a book. He heard his name being called, so he shut his eyes and said, "What do you want?" And as he finished the word want, he heard the voice louder now saying, "You." This really scared him. He immediately told his wife and told her not to ask the same question. Things from you escalated. Out of the corner of his eye, he often thought he could see something moving. He'd look in the mirror or in the window with the light off, and in a split second he'd swear he saw someone looking at him. But, only for an instant, a fraction of a second. Things started to move about. He'd lose things like his car keys or his wallet, only for him to find them in another room. She told me that he was sure he hadn't been in that room that day. Eventually, like all things, it came to a head. When one day he went up to bed, his wife was already in bed. He came up the stairs, and in the spare room, there was an old woman sitting on the bed. He said she had her hands in her head, or her head in her hands. It looked like she was crying. He called his wife. She came running out of their bedroom. After he told her what they saw, they went into the spare room, put the light on. There was nothing there at all. The bed was still made with no indentation of where the woman sat. Nothing. But there did seem a great sadness in there. They felt they had to do something. So the very next day, they both went out and sought the local vicar. He never ridiculed them. He didn't ask many questions. Just said he'd be down later that day. And sure enough, that afternoon before the sun went down, the vicar arrived. He said a few prayers. He blessed the whole house and sat, and he talked to them for a couple of, minutes. He had a cuppa and he left. Now that man told me he could feel an instant improvement of the atmosphere of the house. It seemed like happy for the first time in months. That night they both slept soundly for the first time in ages. Neither had any more dealings with the whispering ghost from that day onward. They stayed in that house for many more happy years and started to raise their own family there. They have moved now, only because they needed a bigger house. Did they have a whispering ghost? If so, who was the woman? As far as I'm aware, this story is completely true. How about you? What's your thoughts on it? If you have any comments, write them below with your opinions and we'll go through them later. Well, that's the two stories tonight.
For the second one's definitely... Second one's scary, isn't it?
Very much so. And for two people to have that same story, it was very scary to me. Because what you've got to do, see, Gary, what you've got to do when you're reading these stories or listening to them, I think if you believe they're true, they get more scarier.
Yeah.
And I believe these, right, what I can say is I can believe that the people who told them to me believe they are true. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean there, don't you? And that's all it takes. That's all that matters. If they believe they're true, but they were there, we weren't there, right?
Yeah.
So if they believe they were true, as far as I'm concerned, they were true. And so if you get that in your mind when you're reading them or listening to them, then they do become more scary. If you was listening to that, knowing to yourself, it's rubbish, it's all rubbish, well, that they wouldn't be scary at all to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's the same with me up in Beaverbrook, you know.
Yeah,
A lot of people won't believe it, But if it happened to them, it's a different story, innit?
Yeah, and they'd laugh at it and say, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that, I would have done the other thing. Not if you're there, you wouldn't have.
So, the head gardener, I still don't like to talk about it.
No, you
Mad.
don't blame him.
Mad, innit?
Yeah. Right, I'll get off, Gary, and I'll join the it and have a chat to you through the
Through the chat.
thingy bob. Yeah, we
Right,
are. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Brilliant.
No worries. Bye, everybody.
That's John Morgan. See, there's definitely something out there, innit? Something scary waiting for you all. You don't know when you move into these grade 2 listed houses. You don't know what's been there before. You don't know what rituals have carried on there. You don't know what deaths. Lots of people say, oh yeah, I don't believe in ghosts. Yeah, but go in Margam Castle now in the middle of the night. Let's see if you believe in them or not. It's easy to say it. I know Kyle can't wait to go in somewhere scary. When we do eventually go in there, he's in charge of any knocks. You got to go and look at the knocks and think without a torch. Kyle, you've got to go and, if there's anything moving, you've got to go without a torch. We'll have to huddle in the corner the other side. Screaming. Yes, chilly, man. Oh. Chilly. Like I heard a story, but it's not long enough to, I will say it. It's all about the Maid of Sker near Porthcawl. She was living there with her family, and she fell in love with a young man there, but he was of a lower standard of living than what they were used to, you know. They were quite well off, and this guy was working in the fields. So the daughter wanted to marry him, and they were in love and everything, you know. But then he said, come on, we'll elope, we'll run away, or we'll get married somewhere else. And the day they were going to elope, the mother and father found out and locked her away in the Scare house, and she died of a broken heart there. And now that her ghost is supposed to roam around the ruins of Scare house, and it's a really old scary house. You know, it's a good name, Scare house. You go down and you'll have a blinking scare. But I think one night, if we can, we'll have to have a little wander down there, Kyle. See if we can get near it or something. And see if we can see anything. Because there are people that are doing ghost hunts and everything all across South Wales. And you can go on a ghost hunt with them, but I think a lot of them are staged, you know. I would rather creep around somewhere and see what happens, like Margam Castle. Just see if there's anybody out there waiting. I would never go to Beaverbrooks Place, that hotel. I wouldn't sleep there again. That was very scary. And Beaverbrook used to come up to me, Lord Beaverbrook, the current one. Oh, there's no such thing as ghosts. But he never stayed there one night. I told him, you sleep here one night. Oh, no, I got my own house, so I only can't there, you know. He wouldn't stay there, see. It's all very well to say there's no ghosts and there's nothing happening. But I was there 18 months by myself. Frightened the life out of me the first 2 months. Things were happening. I couldn't understand what was happening. And after the first night, if you go back and watch one of the first ghost stories, after the first night, then things started happening. And it got worse and worse. Then until I found out I had to confront him, you know. And that was the time that I switched off all the lights in the building, this grade 2 listed mansion. I went from my bedroom, pitch black, walked down the corridors, upstairs, down this windy staircase to his library at the furthest end of the house. And I sat in there, in the library, pitch black, didn't have a torch with me. And I opened up a book. I could just about see it. The moon was full moon. I could just about open the book. And then I felt this cold wind going across the back of my neck. Well, I slammed the book down, jumped up and run like hell back to my flat. Whew, we're not that brave. Ooh, scary. I don't know, as if the faster I ran, as if something was catching me up. It's awful. I'm not an athlete, but I tell you what, within 5 seconds, 10 seconds, I was back in my blinking flat, locked the door. Oh. But then outside the door, you could see feet, as if somebody was there, standing. If I'd opened the door and he'd been there, I would have died of a heart attack. And it's like that, things were happening all the time there. And people saying, oh no, it can't happen. Yeah, but none of them stayed there, see. I was only 18 months on my Todd in that place. At the end of the night, I'd have to go up, make sure everything was locked, make sure all the alarms are on, make sure no windows open, in case something came in like a bat or something, set all the alarms off. So I had to wander around, right? And you'd be turning the lights off, till in the end there's no more lights to turn off, and there you are with a torch, leg it. It was every night. But in the end I sort of got used to it. I thought, look, I gotta work, yeah. If he's going to jump out, then you just have to, see what happens at the time. But nothing jumped out at me. Thank God. I won't be here now. I'll be in a mental asylum. So there we are. There's the ghost stories for tonight. There'll be more next Friday. But we can have a chat now. Anybody wants to chat? Anybody seen any ghosts? Do you know have any? Well, you could throw the teddy at whatever comes, But in that house as well, I was talking to the builders, and they reckon they've seen a woman dressed in white with a white bonnet on her head, which was quite fashionable in the 30s. So I never seen her, but the builders who were renovating the house, they were scared stiff. What a load! They were a load of babies now. Oh, I'd have them come in because they'd have to touch up the paintwork, and they'd be up a ladder, and I'd go grab their leg, like that. Oh, they'd be shaking. They used to hate me. Where is that Welsh arse that they were looking around? I'd sneak up on them, saying, jump out on them. Oh, they didn't like me. Yeah. So wind them up, man. Yeah, we make it a regular thing Friday night now, John. We'll see if we can get some guests in from the paranormal groups, because I'm sure they'd like to tell us some stories and promote perhaps their work or their books or whatever. It's just things happening all around the world, isn't it? Yeah, things happening all the time, all around the place. People don't know what the hell's happening. Like the poltergeist. Was it the poltergeist it was called? The one in America. This big huge thing was frightening people in a house. Can't remember what film that was about. There's loads of films made on true stories, and I find them fascinating. A lot of them are very scary. Like The Exorcist. Oh, I watched it the other night. Couldn't get to bed. I was up all night. Especially if you're by yourself, in the house. If you hear some creaking or whatever, oh God. Oh, you gotta be careful. And there's so many people doing this black magic and stuff. There's somebody on Facebook now tonight. Is anybody a witch? What the hell are they on about? But if you go to a lot of bookshops, there's loads of books on witchcraft. So it must be something that's catching on. Oh, you'll be okay. You've got Kyle to frighten them. I don't know about magic. Have you seen them Chinese people that change really quickly? How the hell do they do it, you know? If you have a look on YouTube, they dressed in pink and then they turn around and they dressed completely in a different colour, different suit. They turn around again and another. I don't know. Look, Margaret. Are you a witch, Margaret? Not on a broomstick, is it? Probably that affected him, see Andy? Ouija board and all that. I talked to somebody who went to Swansea prison and they used to hang people there. That was one of the prisons used to hang people. And he was in a cell that the condemned prisoner would have been kept the night before the hanging. He was true to his cell, him and his mate. Well, it wasn't a mate, but, you know, they're both in the same cell. And they were on bunk beds in the middle of the night. They had shaving bowl and plastic shaving things. And they came and they shot across the room. So, and they were hammering on the door to the warder trying to let him out, but he wouldn't come. And things were shooting around the room, you know, like some sort of poltergeist or some sort of... But apparently they found out then that that cell was the condemned man's cell. In Swansea prison, people would be there on their last night before they were hung the next morning. Because Swansea prison was built in such a way that they didn't have any spare room. That cell was converted, you know, from the old looking cell, but it was still the condemned person's room. And they couldn't sleep. They would, you know, they all trying to take cannabis or whatever they could get taken into, because people were smuggling, well, they still do it, people smuggle drugs into prisons, or they make hooch, which is like a very strong alcoholic wine from potatoes. They drink that because some of these Victorian jails are haunted and they can't run, can they? When you're in there, in that room, you know, 6 foot but 8 foot or whatever it is, and something's running around the room after you, where are you going to go? I don't know. Maybe I haven't looked. I'm not sure I like that most haunted because I think it's a bit set up, you know. But I know this to be a fact because I know the person who was in that cell. And they were scared stiff. They had to change cells onto another wing somewhere because they were both petrified and they both had men, you know. They were in there for armed robbery. And they were like babies, crying their eyes out. And I haven't seen them for years, but I don't think they like to talk about it. So there used to be bouncers in Swansea, that's how I knew them, working the doors, you know. And I used to go to Swansea a lot. So, you don't know what's out there. Yeah, I know a little our intro as well, see. Gotta have an intro with a bit of lightning. I enjoyed doing that this morning. I like to have a couple of little scares in it. I was going to have a shot of Kyle with his top off, but me and John deemed it too scary. Most haunted faking it for the public. What they want to do is get some boys with a camera and a GoPro and just go down there, middle of the night. Yes. There used to be a bit of a joke. I was working years ago doing demolition, and this Scottish guy that you might be watching, Rab, he said he was in bed and used to wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be a big, huge, tall man pointing his finger at him. And he'd be sweats because he was too scared to say anything, too scared to get out of bed. And remember when the lottery came out? It could be you. That's what I said to him. That's what he was trying to convey. Rob, it could be you. He chased me all around the place then. So I'd taken the mickey out of it. Body of a temple. I know. Old Buddhist one that's been knocked down. So when you're getting married now, Kyle, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Fiona definitely wants to get married. So we'd all like to know if you can set the date, right? Because obviously we need to save up for a new suit, whatever, because we'd be coming. Can have the reception in a new shed. John's wife Patsy, she does funerals and weddings and stuff. Bit of the same, aren't they, them two? A life of misery together. They'll get a ring on the finger. Stop playing up. She's okay, is she? Shadowed figures, yeah. Oof, in the background. This room should be haunted, see? My mother died by there. My grandmother fell down the stairs in this house, broke her neck. There's two now, could be coming back. But all I say is, if you're coming back, bring the lottery numbers, right? That's all I want is the lottery numbers. I don't mind, but a bit of scary and jumping out to them. Yeah, haunted theme wedding. Scare house. That one in Neath was scary as well. I was scared reading it. Because when she was telling me, she was crying. Petrified. And she recalls the neighbour that it sounded like a deep growl coming from her house. The dog was so scared it chewed through the door to get out of the kitchen. This entity or whatever it was in the kitchen. And if you ever know, some of you will know where it is. John knows. But if you go to that area, a lot of the houses are for sale because things have been happening up there. So I won't say where it is because the resale value will drop significantly. Whew. Oh, that's the only thing with ghosts and stuff in it. Don't know what's happened where. Thing is, what we got to realise, this planet has been here billions of years. Billions. It's not like 10,000 years old. The Bible says it's 3,000 years old. Bollocks. I believe in God a bit, and all that. But dinosaurs, where did they come from? There's no mention in the Bible of dinosaurs. Right? So let's, the thing is, the Bible was written by scribes, weren't they? And a lot of the books from the original Bible were taken out. Right? So there's loads of books of the Bible that are taken out from the original one because they deemed too scary. See, Margaret's had strange things happen there. Thing is, you don't know what's happening, do you, out there? And it's not just the night they come see the ghosts. They don't care. They'll come anytime scare you. But do they know that they are ghosts? That's the thing, see? We'll have to arrange one once the COVID is gone now, Andy. We'll have to arrange where we can all meet up, you know, equal distance or whatever, and find, because there's a place called the Skerrid Inn, Monmouthshire, and that's supposed to be the most haunted inn in Great Britain, I think. They used to hang people there. It used to be a place where people would be trialed for all sorts of things, but if you came up in front of this particular judge, you would hang. And they used to hang the people in that Skerrid Inn. Kyle. Yeah, but when it happens to you, Kyle, it's a different story altogether. I didn't believe in him. But when a log drops out of a tree and nearly kills you, it's really strange. Especially when it's not the same wood as the other trees. The head gardener I was with doesn't like to talk about it. He's on Facebook. I can give you his name, you can go and have a chat with him. That was scary. So you've got to be careful what you say about the dead, you know. Like I was giving Beaverbrook a bit of a hard time. Thankfully nothing's happened here. But I wouldn't like to go back up there, you know. I would like to stay there again. Sod that. Just glad to get out of there. There's something, Kyle, you know, whether it's from another world, another planet, or I don't know what it is, but there is something. I remember being in Kirkley Court, and they had an open day for people to have a wander around, see the history. I was talking to this old lady. I was saying about what happened to me, and she told me some weird stuff. She said, look, don't think of the future, don't think of the past, think about the present, she said. Just stay in the present. She gave me the bloody willies, that one did. She was scary. She didn't walk, she just sort of went like that, you know. You couldn't see her legs moving. She had drifted away. Whew. But it's a weird thing to say, innit? Don't think about the future, don't think about the past, but be in the present, she said to me. I don't know, what's that mean? Might be, see, I don't know. I'm open to anything. I believe in my faith that I've got, right, is that when you die, you see the light, you walk towards the light, and you're somewhere else. Now the Chinese, they believe that they're going to walk across a stream. But a similar sort of outcome. Once you go across the stream, they're with their family that have died before them. You know, Muslims, they think all these virgins. I'm not sure about that. If there's loads of virgins, I might convert over. Just 25 virgins waiting for him. I don't mind that at all. Depends where they're from, mind. So it's nice to have a bit of fun, and I joke about it. But one day we'll all know if there's a God or not, because we're all going to pop our clogs, and there's nothing going to stop it. Just hope I'm in my sleep when I go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it's nice to be a Christian and to think there is something afterwards, isn't it? Rather than be an atheist and there's nothing after. I wouldn't like that. I think the spirit of somebody's body is always here. Right? So whether you think they're ghosts or it's some sort of supernatural essence of somebody's life, it's hard to explain. But I think when people die, they stay with us. And that's how you can get the comfort. When I was up in Chirkley Court, before I went, my mother had only just died. So I had the comfort of her, although she'd passed on. Whenever I was being a bit scared, I would talk to my mother, and the scare would go, because you'd have the comfort, thinking that she's on your side type of thing, I think that's the way that I look at life and death. That we will go on somewhere else. And the people that have gone on before us are looking out for us. I think Margaret believes that as well. She said something similar the other day. I wouldn't like to be an atheist. They just think, oh, when you're dead, you're dead. There's nothing. There's not many atheists, when they die in, that don't say, I believe in God. See? Just in case. Right on their end. When they're about to pop their clogs, I do believe in you. See, a lot of them are like that. They're too scared to go on and see nothing. So it's a happy time. Every Friday we have a happy time. Good God. Go and watch Netflix after something scary. Right? Oh, I have got a photograph here of Kyle with his top off. You saw the light once. You've come near to death, John, haven't you? As long as you don't get cut down and burnt. Margaret's going. Good night, Margaret. Sleep tight. Don't forget to take that cross with you. Put it on the pillow. I know, thinking about ghosts. All somebody got to do is slam the door outside my house. I'm up like that. I'm a bag of nerves, man. So anyway, I think we'll call it a night now, is it? We'll all clamber off to our little Netflix couches. What should be a Netflix? Whatever. And I'll see you all in the morning. Now Sunday, I'm having a day off. Every Sunday from now on, I'm having a day off. Because I got things to catch up on, I think I got my daughter with me this weekend. So for the next couple of weeks, every Sunday I'm going to have off. And I'll reconvene on Monday morning. Yeah, see you all in the morning, right? I'll just leave you with the little video.